Hello, parents and teachers. Welcome back to another episode with me, Teacher Yuven. And today we're going to be talking about a very important topic. The topic for today's episode is spotting the subtle signs of bullying and empowering your child with strategies. Now, before we even get started, let me just share with you why we decided to talk about this topic, right? When parents come to us when their child has been bullied, it's not like, oh, the child has been bullied for a week or the child has been bullied just for the past 3 days. No, most of the time when the child has been bullied, the child has been bullied for a long enough period of time where the impact is permanent. Now, as a parent who might not have experienced this before, like as in you have never had your child being bullied or you yourself have not been bullied, it might seem like, oh my God, why did they wait so long? Why did they not take action sooner? Right? You might think that, okay, every single parent want to make their child stronger. We want to make them resilient. We want to make them kental, kan? Kita nak bagi dia kental, kita nak bagi dia kuat. We want to make them independent. But why did these parents choose to wait so long until the impact is permanent, right? The thing is, bullying is a very confusing thing to experience as a child as well as a parent, right? So what I've noticed when parents come to us with these bullying cases, it's usually the parents are very confused on what to do. Okay, in one part, there will be their family members suggesting that, oh, you're being too soft on your child, you have to practice a bit of tough love, you kena keraskan dia sikit, tak boleh lembik-lembik macam ni, bagi dia gaduh dengan budak tu balik, bagi dia fight dengan diorang so that they become strong, nanti besar macam mana. So they want to practice tough love. Even if the parent doesn't want to practice this on their own, some parents do. Some parents, especially I've heard this from fathers who say, oh, this is all part normal part of life. They have to go through, right? Even though the mom doesn't agree. So there's mismatch there. But quite a number of times it's from extended family, which means grandparents or, relatives and whatever not. So they feel like maybe I'm being too soft. So the parents are very confused. Do I pull them out? Do I take action? Because if I take action, am I overprotecting them and then therefore setting them up for failure? Am I not giving them the opportunity to build their own backbone? These are the common words I heard here from parents, right? But what I want to share with you today, that when you decide to intervene or when you decide to protect your child from bullying, it's not that you're making them weaker. It is like giving them vaccine, because the impact of bullying is not just the physical act or just them hearing it for one time. What we've noticed, and research proves this as well, that the impact is far-fetching. Some of the kids who were bullied in school carry it up to like when they're 30s, 40s. They have not even gotten rid of it even when they're in their 40s, So this is personal experience. I've met people, talk to them that they have been carrying this with them for a very, very long time. So with modernity comes another layer to this problem, where there is also cyberbullying. Like previously, at least it's easier for parents to see. Like we will be talking about all this later, like how to spot the kid is being bullied, right? But let's see if they're bullied online, and then this adds another layer of complexity. Lagi susah kita nak tahu budak tu kena bully ke tak, sebab tak ada physical signs langsung. Cikgu pun tak boleh nampak apa semua, kan? So it's very dangerous. So what are we going to talk about today in today's webinar? Let's look at what I've prepared for you guys to discuss today. So first of all, we are going to talk about why protecting your child from bullying is not weakness. Okay. So benda ni kepada parents yang memang very aware, self-aware, you spend a lot of time maybe in therapy, you spend a lot of time healing, this might seem like, ala cikgu, benda ni bukan obvious ke? It might seem like that. But trust me, for a lot of parents, it is not. It is not. Like a lot of parents, like how I described earlier, they are in a state of confusion when it comes to, should I even take an action? Should I even protect my child? Should I even validate my child's fears, or push them, right? And we're going to look into a lot of case studies that I've personally experienced, counsel parents with. So after we look at why this is not a weakness, I want to spend a lot of time here because this is the biggest part or biggest challenge I've noticed parents have. Like, is this a sign of weakness? Like, this stops everything, meaning if they cannot overcome this, they cannot take the next course of action. So once we've done that, what we want to look at is we want to look at impact of bullying, and we want to understand what is the parental role in managing this impact. Of course, we will also look at teachers' roles, but I notice teachers' roles are very limited, especially in a physical school environment, and we're going to look at why that is when we go to that section. After we've looked at the impact, we also want to see how can we spot signs of bullying. Okay, signs of bullying, and a lot of parents rasa macam, okay, kalau dia kena pukul, balik ada lebam-lebam, baru bullying. No, there's many other signs that you can see before it gets to the physical level. Usually physical level, I would say, is the very last one that you can see. So there's many other subtle signs that you can see before it gets to the physical. And I have also seen cases where it has pushed the child to suicide, but tak ada physical signs langsung. So it is very important for us to look at both the obvious and also the invisible signs. Now, after we look at that, we want to see, in case your child has been bullied, how can parents help? What can you do? How can you mitigate, like, your feeling of like, oh, did I not do a good job as a parent? Did I not protect my child? These feelings are valid, yeah, because when it happens to our kids, this is exactly how we feel. Like, maybe I failed as a parent. Maybe I didn't do a good job. And I've heard so many parents share these kind of sentiments during our strategy call, or, when we are going through the discussion with them. It's a lot, right? So I want to make sure that we give you a chance to validate those feelings and realize that it's not your fault. And then maybe there are also parents who are listening to this. No, your child's not being bullied, so you're not looking at how to heal the wounds or how to manage the impact of the bullying, but you want to know how to prevent this from happening. So this would be great. This would be great for parents who want to prevent bullying from happening to your child. What are the steps that you can take, right? So these are the things that we're going to cover today. And hopefully it will be a super valuable episode for you. If you have any questions when I'm sharing these things, please type in the comment section. We will definitely get to you, right? Okay, so without further ado, let's get to the most important part of today's episode, the explanation on why protecting your child from bullying is not a sign of weakness on your part. Please take time to fully digest this, because this, I have seen, is the biggest struggle with parents when their child is bullied. Okay, so let's get started with the first belief system. Okay, so the first belief system is that you have what parents usually state, and this is the statement they usually make. No, kalau I tak biar dia go through all this, macam mana nanti dia bila besar, macam ni dia akan face the world. They need to know that all these people exist in the world, baru dia boleh survive nanti bila I tak ada, kan? This general statement lah. So this belief system is usually traditional beliefs lah, and they have personal experience. So this part we would like to call it about traditional beliefs and personal experiences. Okay, macam mana dia punya personal experience? Maybe dia kena bully juga. As a kid, they were bullied either by their own parents, their teachers, or friends, kan? Kadang-kadang dia tak sedar pun dia kena bully. And then dia rasa macam like, oh, I went through a lot worse. This is nothing. So, kita kena kentalkan you, right? So they might have grown up in an environment where tough love was common. Okay, and then the next belief, the underlying belief in those kind of statements, is that they believe that adversity is necessary. Maksudnya, some form of hardship is necessary to build resilience and to build character, right? And though I agree with that statement, which means I agree that some form of hardship and adversity is necessary to build character, but we're going to look today why bullying is not one of them. Okay, now, so what research indicates, let's look at what research indicates. So research indicates that when your child faces bullying, it does not actually build resilience. Okay, we're going to look shortly what resilience means. Apa tu, like membina daya kental, kan? Kita nak bagi anak kita kental macam mana. So it doesn't actually build resilience, but actually bullying leads to, these are the things research says, increased anxiety, depression, and lowered self-esteem. Meaning, besides depression and anxiety, the child also believes they are worth a lot less. Now, to parents who are very troubled with this statement, right? Like, you are troubled with the statement that I'm not being tough on my child, how are they going to be strong? And like, if they're not exposed to all these bad people when they're young itself, how are they going to handle it when I'm not there when they're an adult? So for them, I have this question. Does everybody need to get dropped to know how to protect their money when they're on the street? Does everyone have to fight a tiger to know that that's not a wise move? Kalau jumpa harimau, lari, tembak harimau tu ke, lari naik atas pokok. It's not necessary, right? You don't have to get scammed to know that scammers exist. Similarly, you don't need to go through these experiences to just know bad people exist. Because as a human being, a lot of our experiences or a lot of our cautionary tale, oh, don't mix with this kind of people, don't do these kind of things, didn't come from actually experiencing them on our own. Mostly it came from our parents telling us that this is bad, don't do this. It came from stories, storybooks. It came from movies. It came from, watching documentaries. Like, I think children can learn that you don't need to go and talk to strangers with vans next to them by just you telling them, right? They don't even have to watch a documentary on human trafficking to know that. So similarly, when it comes to bullying, child doesn't have to experience this because this is not a process of building resilience. It's a process of harming the child. And that's something that I want parents to really get into their mind. This is not a process of building resilience. Now, why this problem happens? So the next point is, parents usually misunderstand what is resilience. Maksudnya, kita nak bina daya ketahanan dia kan. Kita nak bagi dia kuat. Kita nak bagi dia boleh face apa-apa adversity pun. Tapi kita salah faham what is daya kental tau. Kita salah faham what is resilience. So resilience generally is fostered in children or in any person actually when they are met with challenges, but there is a solution to that challenge, right? There is a support system to face that challenge. There is coping strategies to face with that challenge. So for example, let's take a very simple example. Budak-budak jadi stress bila homework susah. But that one not a problem because a teacher can help, a parent can help. But let's say a kid lives in a hostel, dia duduk kat asrama and tak ada orang tahu dia kena pukul. And they feel like there's nobody who's going to help them. You understand? So that is not building resilience. They're just putting your child in harm's way. So we've also got brain science, right, that shows us that repeated stress that child gets from bullying. So what is this repeated stress? That means hari ni dia kena panggil gemuk, esok dia kena panggil, oh kau gelap lah, kau buruk lah, kena hentam, kena curi barang, because it happens on a daily basis. So this is what I've heard from parents who their child were bullied. They got this on a daily basis and it progressively gets worse as the child tries to cope with it, right? This kind of repeated stress actually alters the child's brain structure, particularly in regions related to anxiety and emotional regulation. So it is not very unusual, maksudnya sangat-sangatlah common, bila budak tu kena bully, they actually end up being the next bully. Example, dia kat sekolah kena bully, balik rumah bully adik-beradik. Atau dia kat sekolah kena bully, balik rumah memang dia biadab dengan parents atau biadab dengan mak lah selalunya sebab mak soft kan, mak more soft hearted, selalunya biadab dengan mak. So you see that they are now trying to establish themselves in the food chain lah, in the hierarchy. Oh, I am here, bully tu atas ni, so you are underneath me, let me bully you now. See, it really does affect them in the long run. Now, when we say that, okay, bila bullying tu boleh bina daya kental seorang, or we can build daya ketahanan seorang, that's like saying, oh, okay, in order to teach my child how to walk well, right? Let me break their leg. Let me see how they walk with a broken leg. Because then they will be really, really strong. Because they know how to walk with a straight leg, a normal leg, and they know how to walk with a broken leg. Tak masuk akal kan? So this is the mistake that we are making. Sorry, I have to give this kind of analogies that are really hard or really painful sebab it is a very hard stigma for most parents to break. It's a very hard thing for parents to do to actually intervene when the kids is being bullied, because really I've noticed this so many times over. Now, the next reason why it's not a sign of weakness, because most parents will feel this lah. Dia rasa macam I'm overprotecting my child. So because as parents, I understand kita nak anak kita kuat, kita nak anak kita berdikari, kita nak dia independent, right? So kita rasa kalau we intervene, kita masuk campur, nanti kita akan bagi anak kita rasa macam, oh, apa-apa pun mak ada, apa-apa pun ayah ada, dia akan tolong kita. Kita rasa macam they will just become dependent on us. Now, in this, I can tell you a story of a parent. So this parent, when they came to us, dia cerita apa semualah, dia cerita what's the problem. Of course, generally parents don't start out with the bullying. They talk to us about the child's not doing very well in school, you know, and all that. They want to switch schools. So one thing about us is we really truly try to understand who the child is and what is their history before we bring them in, because, you know, we are super personalized, right? So when we were listening to this mom story, there's something not right. Then I keep asking further questions and everything. Then the mom mentioned this lah, but you know lah, dia kat sekolah, dia tak ada kawan sangat. Ataupun what happens is when they do group projects and all, they push all the work to her. Dia seorang je kena buat. And the school is a bit racist, classmates dia a bit racist. But then I tell my daughter, kat Malaysia ni, you have to learn how to face it lah. You know, I'm in corporate, it's very racist here also, but you got to fight this, you got to be here. So what happens here, bila as parents, we tell this to our kids. Oh, I'm also facing racism. I'm also okay with it. I have to learn to live with it. So what we are saying is, benda ni buruk, but it's part of life. We are normalizing something that is harmful for the child, right? We are normalizing what is negative, because the child does have a lot of options not to work with a racist boss or a racist team. There's many other organizations. There is a way to macam boleh berniaga sendiri. Now the options are unlimited, kan? Like, mana tahu dia nak jadi influencer ke, YouTuber ke, dia nak berniaga jual barang ke. They don't have to face this. So what we want to tell our children is their self-worth is more important than just accepting wrong things as normal, right? So we fear that when kita masuk campur, we will end up overprotecting. Now, first of all, kita kena define what is overprotecting. Overprotecting is when we masuk campur dalam benda yang budak tu boleh manage sendiri. Example, this one also kita ada example. The parents come and say, oh, teacher, this homework very difficult. Don't give my child. I've had experience, mak dia marah sebab kita bagi homework, and then mak dia tak boleh bawa anak pergi jalan-jalan. Like after school, dia tak nak homework sebab dia tak nak. After school, the mom wants to bring her out to the mall every day. Like, you know, the mom's a socialite lah, wants to go out and whatever not, right? So because of that, the mom doesn't want us to give homework. But at the same time, the mom also wants the grades to be great. You understand the challenges of being a teacher? So it's very difficult. Now, this is overprotection, meaning you don't want to expose your child to manageable chores or manageable challenges, because this is how children actually build independence. Okay, they do a bit of hard things, then they do harder things, then they do the hardest things. So we build their ability to handle hard things. So what is the difference between overprotecting and actually protecting? So overprotecting is like saying that, oh, you don't try any new type of foods. It's very dangerous, because if you eat any type of food, what if like you get a reaction? That's overprotection lah. Whereas in this case, it's like saying that I know that this will cause you allergic reaction, but you eat it anyway because I want to make you stronger. Nanti you makan banyak-banyak kan, nanti allergy tu tak ada. Walaupun doktor dah cakap benda tu memudaratkan, benda tu boleh datangkan bahaya, kita force orang tu buat supaya dia boleh jadi lagi kuat. This is the problem lah. This is exactly what we do with bullying. There's a lot of research and science that says that bullying is bad, but we continue to force that upon our children because we feel like it will make them stronger. So that's the difference. And it's very important to understand this difference so that you can take the right action. Now, the next one is why parents don't want to intervene. This one, unbelievable for parents who have not experienced it. But for most parents, I think it will be very relatable. They feel like if I intervene, if I masuk campur, it will get worse. It will get a lot worse. Now, I don't find that very difficult to accept, because we've had parents here, they come to us, dia nak bagi feedback tau. Dia bagi feedback, dia selalu cakap macam, oh, can I say this? I don't want my daughter to get into trouble nanti dengan cikgu-cikgu dia. I don't want the teachers to pick on her. So I'll be very confused. Why would anybody say no to feedback, right? Because feedback means, okay, we get the feedback, we can get better lah, we can improve, we can serve you better and everything. But what the parents told me is, in their previous schools, when they give feedback, cikgu jadi marah. Cikgu macam like, oh, so you're trying to tell me you know how to do my job better lah. Anak you not so special ke? Anak you yang salah. And then what happens is, when they get that feedback, they end up picking up on the child of the parent who gave the feedback. So budak tu kena pulau, budak tu kena bully, or cikgu langsung tak nak layan budak tu atau tengok budak tu pun lepas tu. You know? So this is what happens. So parents become super cautious on intervening because they don't want the problem to be worse, right? And this is especially true if the child is being bullied by the teachers. So we've got a lot of cases where the bully is actually the teacher. The teacher says mean things. I've even had one experience where the mom said, every time the child asks a question, the teacher says, wow, you guys are really strawberry generation. You can't even exert a bit of effort to find this on your own, right? So when we say that we don't want to intervene, right, because we are skeptical, kalau kita intervene, kalau kita masuk campur, it'll become worse. It's like saying, tak apalah, ada api kan, nanti dia akan padam sendiri. Tak payah hantar bomba. Bomba tu tak tahu efektif ke tak. It's like that. Okay, so intervention is effective, and if necessary, if it is necessary for the mental health and safety of your child, pulling out is also a very good option. Like, you're not making your child weaker by giving them an option to be safe. Okay, that's what I want to reframe. This is not about making them weak, it is about making them safe, and it is our job as parents to keep them safe if other people can't do it for us, right? Okay, the next one is that I also feel that the reason why parents don't step in or parents don't try to stop this, because parents themselves lack awareness on the effect of bullying long term, right? So like we've talked about before, this is one of a more recent case study that I have, right? The girl was bullied for almost 2 years. 2 years constant bullying. But this girl is actually a star student. She's a star student. She's giving speeches in schools. She's holding leadership positions. But for some reason, I don't know, these boys, they actually don't like her or hate her. It's very hard to explain the reason behind bullying, because they can bully for whatever reasons. So they start picking on her. So they start saying that she's fat, she's ugly, and this has been happening consistently. To a point that in the beginning, she tried to ignore them, she tried to zone them out. But I think it happened so consistently that eventually it got to her. Eventually, she believed that she is fat, even though she's just a normal girl, like completely acceptable body structure, body type, whatever you want to call it, right? But because she's been continuously ridiculed, she accepted that as the truth. Then what happened is she started starving herself. That's when the mom really noticed, okay, there's something wrong here. She's starving herself. She's getting so thin. So then the mom realized, then only the mom brought her to a therapist. So this is step one, no? At least the mom intervened and brought her to a therapist, right? For I also heard many cases, people who are in their 30s and 40s, where they did not get this intervention. So what happened is they carried that shame and that feeling of inadequacy. They rasa macam, I'm not good enough, I am not enough, or I am bad, or I am fat. They carry it with them forever. And it affects them in their ability to form relationship with other people, finding a suitable spouse, because they constantly feel like they are ugly, they're not enough, right? So these are actually long-term effects on bullying, right? And bullying one, it's long-term effect, right? And it's well documented now, because well documented in the sense that it gives higher risk for depression and anxiety. That's of course. And the next one is suicide ideation and also suicide attempts. So it also increases the chances of this happening. So we also heard, like, this is another case study, right? Like this parent, single mom, she got separated from the husband. So the girl has been here, where else the mom is abroad, because, you know, the mom wants to support her the child's education and whatever not, right? So the mom was working, so the girl is living with the relatives lah. And somehow the children at school got to know that her parents are separated, and they made that a point to pick on. So they kept pushing her about it, making all sort of comments until the girl cannot take it lah. And she actually attempted suicide, right? So this is very dangerous. And I don't think as parents, we ever want to face this. And it's better if we can prevent it. So if you know, then try to take actions as soon as possible. And one more reason why it stops parents from actually taking action, right, is the stigma. Because like I mentioned before, for some parents, admitting that your child is bullied or being bullied and needing to remove them from the school, it makes them feel like they are a failure as a parent, or their child failed as a person. So in their head, they're like, oh, I didn't raise my child well enough. They're not strong enough to fight this kind of kids who are picking up on them. They should be more resilient. They should be stronger. They should like punch the other kid on the face. Banyaklah fikiran dia. Like, I didn't do a good job as a parent. This is the stigma tau. So when we let this kind of stigma stop us from doing what is right, it's like saying that, okay lah, I dah tahu anak I sakit, or I know my dad is having a heart attack, but I don't want to call an ambulance sebab nanti orang fikir macam mana? Orang fikir I failure, orang fikir I tak jaga my dad sebab tu dia kena heart attack. You know? So we don't want to take the action because we're afraid of what other people might think. But as parents, I think it's our first duty to put our kids' safety and mental health a priority above what makcik bawang lain akan cakap. What the neighbors are going to say, what your sister-in-law is going to say, it doesn't matter, right? What matters is your child's safety, right? So I hope, like, we don't focus on appearances and we focus on healing and taking care of our child, right? Now, last one that I want to talk about before we go to impact is that a lot of parents have this belief also lah, that, you know, it leads from the belief that they didn't raise their child well. Is the belief that the child should independently solve the problem. Dia kata, okay, awak ada masalah kan? Awak lah kena solve. Bukan dia bully I, dia bully you, bang. So you lah kena pergi and fight with the kids. Here's the problem with that statement or with that belief. Yes, we should give autonomy to our children to solve their problem. Okay, for example, dia lapar. Nak masak Maggi mee ke, nak bakar roti ke, tu choice dia lah. Dia boleh solve the problem on their own. But when you expect your child to independently solve the problem of bullying, right? That's like expecting a child that's drowning to just swim ashore. There is a very clear difference in power dynamics lah, because orang yang tengah bully tu selalunya lagi besar, atau dia datang dalam kumpulan, where else this kid is one single kid. And usually the kids who get bullied, right, they raised very well, they raised very well by their parents. So I want you to understand that as well. The kids who get bullied, it's not that you failed as a parent. It's just that we are failing as a society to protect the kid, right? Because these kind of kids, you don't want to create problems. Banyak I pernah dengar, the kid didn't want to share with the parents because dia tak nak bebankan parents dia. Dia rasa parents dia dah buat banyak gila benda, dah hantar dia pergi sekolah yang elok, ataupun like they're working very hard to support the education. So the kid doesn't want to burden the parents and don't want to share. Or the kid is ashamed that this is happening to them, right? So when we say that tak apalah, dia kena fight sendiri tau, dia dah besar ni. This is like saying, kalau anak kita kena keliling dengan penyamun, kita kata tak apalah, tak apa. Kita tengok dia fight macam mana. Kita tengok dia kental tak. Dia boleh tak fight dengan like a group of lanun ni, dengan penyamun-penyamun ni semua. Kita nak dia independent kan? So kita biar. That's what we're saying. Because there's a clear difference between exercising autonomy or like the ability to solve problem compared to facing harm. This is what I want you to understand, that being bullied is actually like putting them in the middle of the road with an approaching lorry. It's actually harm. There's nothing about this that's going to build resilience. Okay, so if that is clear and that helped you get over your own belief system that you are not good as a parent, you are not doing a great job as a parent, please let me know in the comment section, because we really hope that this helped you, right? So the next thing that we're going to look at is we're going to see what is the impact of bullying and what role can parents play in order to reduce or mitigate this impact right after a very short break.
Yeah, I lost 7 kilos just because of them. I didn't want to experience that feeling again. I can be happy again. I wanted to be homeschooled. And then COVID came. And I was actually really happy when online school happened in Raffles, because I was like, yes, I don't need to face the bullies, let's go. And I was scared, frightened. So I told my mom, can I do homeschooling? In past Excel, I don't feel worried. We all always interact. I think that's actually how we actually started talking and not actually make fun of each other. They were fun. They actually acted fun. They were nice. They weren't very mean. And I was like, oh, okay. So not all people are that bad. Not all people are bad.
Welcome back. And in this section, we are going to be talking about what parents can do to mitigate the impacts of bullying and what are actually the impacts of bullying or effects on the children, right? All right. So now the first thing that we want to look at is what can parents do? Okay, so parents can do a lot of things, but one of the first things parents have to stop doing is the blame game. So this is not to say it's uncommon, not unheard of. It's very common actually. When the child is being bullied, we say it is the child's fault for actually getting bullied. So this is the same people who go around saying when you get raped, the problem is because, oh, the way you were wearing, what you were wearing, where were you walking, why did you even go to that place at that time? These are the same people who actually will say when the child gets bullied, it's actually the child's fault. So as parents, we want to stop doing that. We want to say things like, alah, you lembek kan? Itulah, suruh jalan betul-betul, suruh jalan tegap, tak nak. Pasal itulah kena bully. Dah kan I cakap, suruh lantang sikit bersuara. Sebab itulah kena bully. You sotong kan? Sebab tu kena bully. These are common lah. So, we've also heard, like I said before, teachers calling kids, wow, you really strawberry, yeah? So that means teachers and parents who are supposed to be the protectors end up making that the child deserves to be bullied, or there is something wrong with them, which is why they are being bullied. So this is the first thing that we can stop doing, because the blame game is extremely harmful. What happens is when the kid believes that there is something wrong to them or they deserve to be bullied, especially the fact, like I've seen this in few kids, and for us to get them out of there is super duper hard. When they start believing that there is something fundamentally wrong with them, sebab tu dia kena bully, changing that belief system takes a long time, yeah. So what you want to do is you want to stop this, because once the kid thinks that it's their fault, and you are the one who says that it's their fault, they stop sharing with you. Okay, they stop telling you what is actually happening. They stop telling you what are the causes of what this is happening. So then the parents cannot support their children. You cannot help them feel safe. You cannot help them feel understood, and you cannot take any necessary action to protect the child. So there's anything that you can do. First of all, stop blaming the child that it's their fault and start listening really curiously, really intently what actually is happening. Now, what is the effect of bullying on children? We've looked at a lot of sections just now itself. We've looked at mental health, stress, anxiety, depression, but we need to look at this further. We need to explore this further. One of the things that comes really is questioning of self-worth, or I've heard from my students, they ask this question, so why does this happen to me? Why me? Why is my life like this? Why isn't it like other people don't face this, right? Now, this happens when, of course, they're kids, they even adults do this, we tend to overgeneralize, meaning we fail to see that, oh, we have loving parents, or we have a safe home, that we are very blessed. We have so many things that is going good for us. In that moment, the kids can forget all this. So they have extreme fear, and then they start thinking that things are that is wrong with them. They develop low self-esteem, right? So what we want to do is we want to make sure we bring them out of there and not worry about other things. What do I mean by that? So I have experienced many times when the kids are being bullied, the parents' concern is, oh, but dia ketua sekian-sekian dekat sekolah, then kalau saya bawa keluar, then he will lose the leadership position. Or anak saya sebenarnya represent the district, or they have this particular club that they are really good at. Many reasons. Or the best one is they actually were doing really well, before they kena bully. My kids were doing really well. They punya grades sangat bagus. So I don't want to pull them out because I takut like the grades won't improve, whatever it is, right? So generally, bullying leads to all these things, meaning they lose focus in school, their grade starts to drop, they lose interest in learning altogether, because what happens is now they have linked these two things together. Their link is about being bullied and the process of learning itself, because the bullying happened at the places of learning, right? So parents' job is to disassociate that, bring them to an environment where they can learn without being bullied, right? And also at that point of time, right, we need to think like doctors, right? So let's say you have many issues, many diseases ke apa, doctor tu takkan fikir macam, let's fix all of this at one time. Dia bukan macam bawa kereta pergi service. What the doctor will do is, okay, this is the most pressing issue now, let's fix this, and then we look at the other issues later, right? So the same thing when you're dealing with kids. What you want to do is you want to fix the main stressor. You want to try to, if it's within your possibility, remove the main stressor, then remove it, put them in a different environment. We always think that if we bring them out from a stressful environment, they won't learn resilience, strength, whatever it is, right? But what I always tell parents is, sometimes kids just need the space and the time to actually fully grow and bloom. Maksudnya, kalau kita minta a sapling, a tree that has not fully grown to fight the hurricane or to fight a thunderstorm, misalnya, thunderstorm, the sapling can't. But if you ask a fully grown tree in the rainforest to fight a thunderstorm, the tree is like, I've been here 200 years. What are you talking about, right? So sometimes our children just need that space, that nurturing environment, until they become that strong tree, until they're fully developed, so they can face it on their own. Like forcing them to face something that they're not ready for, or they're not prepared for, or in this case is actually harmful for them, it's not a good idea. It's a really bad idea, right? Now, the next thing is that besides the low self-esteem, right, one of my students who were bullied in the previous school, he actually cannot believe that kids can be nice. So I remember the first time that I met him, he doesn't want to even come out from behind his mom. So that because when he was bullied in his previous school, his teachers take absolutely no action. And this is quite common. This is what we want to share, which is why parents, you guys really have to step up, especially in private case situations, because the ones that we've gotten so far, now let's just look at private schools, international schools problem, yeah? So when he was bullied by a group of students. The parents did approach the school, they did intervene. So the parents did all the right things. They intervened, they talked to the principal and everything. But they refused to take action. The school management and the teachers refused to take an action because the kids who were bullying him are from influential family. And in my experience as a teacher, this is the second time I'm hearing this, which means action was not taken because the kid who is bullying is actually from an influential family. Not to say the one who kena bully is, a normal person also, but it's just that the person who was bullying is far more influential. And in his case, the one who was bullying was a group of kids. The other student who was getting bullied, she was bullied by 2 students, but the reason why the school didn't want to take action was because 2 of these students both have siblings in the school. So which means they are afraid if I take action on the bullies, then their siblings might also pull out from the school. So that's a huge loss of income towards the school. And the same thing happened here in my student's case, where the school doesn't want to take action, because if they took action on the bullies, they will lose, let's say, 5 income. Where else, if they just keep quiet, they are hoping that this boy will just drop out of school, because after all, I only lose 1. So this is the private school environment. Yeah. So this boy, when I first met him, he doesn't even want to come out from behind his mother. All I can see is just his eyes, right? It's just his eyes. And he initially thought it's going to be a one-to-one class online, right? But we told him it's going to be a group class. And because it was a group class, even though it was online, he was so fearful of coming to the class. That's how badly he was bullied. He lost 7 kilos. He started questioning everything. It's really terrible, right? So when we had to bring him in, what we did was we initially just introduced him to one of his classmates. So I told the mom, it's okay, we'll take some time. He doesn't have to attend classes yet. Let me just introduce to one of my students, because that student is really good. He's really kind, empathetic, and all that. So we introduced him to this student. I facilitated the conversation for a while. Then I stepped out, and then he got quite he warmed up to this student of mine. Then after this, I repeated again. After a few sessions, then I repeated again with one more student of mine. So they were both willing to help, because they felt like, okay, we want to help this kid because he seems like he has gone through a lot. So this is where that's why you need to develop, the school needs to develop a culture of empathy and understanding of other people's problems. So because this one, I just asked for volunteers, and both the boys wanted to help him. So then after that, I again opened the room, for them online, and then they met each other. Then I exited. Then I came back after half an hour. Everybody's light is off on their camera, and they're all gaming. They're laughing. There's like in one person's room, they were showing each other the lights they have and stuff like that. When I came back in, so eventually after the session was over, then I asked him, "How did you feel?" And he was telling me, "Oh, they were actually really nice. It was so difficult for me to know that. Like I thought like." Every kid who's my age is going to be like that, right? Because he has no problem communicating with people who are much older than him, or trusting people who are much older than him, or people who are much younger than him, because the bullies were his age. So it became a permanent thing in his mind that kids his age just want to pick on him and bully him, right? So we want to make sure that we rehabilitate our children from these beliefs. Because imagine they go on becoming adults thinking that this is the truth. This is a long-term impact on who they can be as a person. Thank God for us, we worked on this. I remember the mom, after he has graduated, right? The mom still wanted to meet us, wanted to host a Thanksgiving lunch, because we did a fantastic job and he got good grades and all that, right? Then the mom was telling us, my biggest happiness was not the fact that he got great grades, is that when I went to pick him up from college, he was walking back with a bunch of friends, which I never thought that can happen for him ever again. Like, because we did a great job here, when he went and left here, he still can carry that confidence with him. And that's what I try to tell parents. You just need to give them some space to become stronger. You just need to give them some nurturing, some love and care until they can become that big tree, which is something they deserve. As our child, we brought them into this world. I think they deserve that, right? Now, hopefully that makes sense. And if you've been struggling to make this decision, whether I should care or should I, let them toughen up, I hope this opened your eyes, right? The next thing that we want to look at, the next section that we want to look at is, okay, let's say you're convinced now that I have to take care of my children. I cannot just let them face this harm. It is also quite hard for you to spot the signs of bullying beyond what's the obvious. So first, let us explore what are the obvious signs. So the obvious signs, the first one is physical marks. You start seeing scratches. You start seeing bruises. You start seeing injuries that the child cannot explain. Okay, I want you to understand this, yeah. Most bully victims don't want to get bullied. I hope you can grasp this, because I feel like with the parents that I've spoken, it seems like a lot of parents feel like it was the kid's fault, or maybe the kid did something, that's why people want to attack them. No, most of the bully victims did not want to get attacked or bullied. So what happens is they refuse to share when this happens at home. Okay. So if you start seeing this kind of bruises that you cannot explain, then that's a good sign they're being bullied. Then the next thing that a lot of parents have shared with me is that they notice things are missing. Books, handphones, maybe clothes are torn or clothes are missing. Like you send together with PE lesson clothes, PJ lessons, but then they come back with none of it. Items are frequently lost or damaged. Yeah, these are also symptoms, and the kid cannot explain why, what happened. Okay, this one is a very telltale sign. The next one, if let's say your kid is not 3-4 year old, right? They don't want to go to school because kids generally love going and meeting their friends. But if the kid keeps on saying that I don't want to go to school, suddenly, I've also experienced this. Yeah, parents told me that the kid has high fever. The moment they bring it to school, like then the mom said, "Wow, it looks like you have very high fever. Let's go back home." And the moment they come back home, the fever is gone. That means the body is creating so much of stress that the moment that the idea of school is dropped, the stress goes down and the fever disappears as well. So if you see that your child is avoiding to go to school, this is another obvious sign. These are all very obvious signs, yeah? And then the next one you want to see is you want to see change in behavior. So what are the changes in behavior that you can observe? You suddenly find that your child is more anxious. Dia macam tak tentu hala kan, dia selalu macam tak kena tempat, very anxious. And then daripada seorang yang peramah, dia suka gelak, suka buat jokes, very outgoing, they become less confident. They suddenly have drawn in behavior. Maksudnya suka isolate themselves, suka bersendirian, or the opposite. Dia actually elok je sebelum ni, tiba-tiba sekarang suka pukul adik, suka melatah, tiba-tiba marah tak tentu pasal. So these are all the behavioral changes that you can observe if somebody is being bullied because they're now trying to pass it on to other people. They need some sort of coping mechanism, right? When they are not taught the right coping mechanism, this will become their coping mechanism, right? And the one that is most obvious that a lot of parents have shared is eating disorders and sleeping disorder. You notice your child now cannot sleep at night. Suddenly they were sleeping fine all the while. Ni bukan yang selalu tak tidur lah. Ni this one all the while sleeping fine. Now suddenly they're always awake. They lack of sleep. They don't want to eat. They lost appetite. Or the opposite can also be true. Suddenly an increase in appetite that cannot make sense. These are all symptoms of stress, symptoms of them being bullied at school. So these are what we would say are obvious signs. Now, let's say some kids are very good at hiding the obvious signs, right? Then we look at invisible signs. What are the invisible signs a kid is being bullied at school? So the first one is social withdrawal. Like what I mentioned just now, this is a behavior change, meaning suddenly now they prefer to be alone. They want to avoid situations where they meet friends or they meet family members. Before this, they used to enjoy. So I had one student who's like this. This was actually one of the first symptoms the mother noticed and knew that she was being bullied. So what happened was she was a very outgoing child, super confident. When she was a kid, used to go on stage and start talking to people in family functions, dancing, singing, and all that. But once this started happening, first the father thought it was a sign of becoming a teenager. But the mom was always suspicious, right? So what happened is she stops laughing a lot. She's very, very quiet now. She stopped smiling even. She stopped disclosing everything to her parents because she was afraid, if she start talking, it might come out that she's getting bullied at school. Right? So she stopped all these things. Then the mom noticed that this is a problem, and when she started investigating, then only she knew that the kid was being bullied at school. That's one invisible sign. The other one is emotional distress. That means you see there's nothing bad that happened, there's nothing wrong that happened, but the child is very, very sad. They're very irritatable. You say some things and then they straight away get irritated. They're very moody, which is not like how they were. They're super sensitive now or always very fearful. These are all signs of emotional distress, which means you might want to investigate further. The next one, the child actually loses enthusiasm or they lose dia punya semangat nak belajar. Tiba-tiba tak nak buat homework, tak nak buat school project, even in subjects or teachers classes that they like before, they don't like it anymore. If you have a decline in academic interest, this is another reason, right? The next one is secretive behavior. Okay, yang ni penting lah, because especially when you're dealing with cyberbullying. So I don't know how many parents know this. So there was a challenge called a blue whale challenge, right? What happens with this blue whale challenge is a 50-day challenge. Every day they ask you to do something, and then on the 50th day, the child is asked to commit suicide. Very scary. And I know of kids, parents actually brought them here. They shared lah. What happened was the kids started self-harming, meaning the kid starts cutting themselves. Right now, when this happened, one of the first thing the mom noticed is that budak tu, every time the mom gets near, dia tutup phone. Dia tukar screen pergi tempat lain. Right? So if they start having this secretive behavior, you might want to investigate, because that's very, very dangerous. Right? So here, how we do it is, because we facilitate dekat Pass Excel, what I do is that we facilitate that open communication with teachers, what's happening. So in between every class, there's a 15-minute break. So what happens is the teacher, after the class ends, stays on and talks to the kids. They really form a very good rapport, right? And then we get to know the kid. So a lot of these times, we spotted it first, and then we tell the parent, okay, I think there's something off here. The kid suddenly is not very energetic in class. They are losing enthusiasm, motivation about things, right? So when we maintain this close rapport, sometimes parents tak boleh notice because they're busy, right, at work. So this is what we do. So in order to help parents out. And then another thing that I think a lot of parents shared, right, when they were trying to enroll at other schools, one of the mothers mentioned this to me lah. Dia pergi sekolah mana pun, sekolah tu bagi, okay, here's the form, here's the fees, here's the schedule. That's it. They don't ask, they don't get to know about the student, what the parents are aspiring for, what's the personal history. So a lot of parents find that this is very difficult lah, because how to combat secretive behavior, or how to combat this if they don't have a partner when it comes to dealing with all this, right? Okay, the next one is, you notice that there is a huge change in communication in the child. So what does that look like? Sekarang tak nak jawab. Tanya apa pun, walk away. Single answers, single word answers. So if you notice all this, and especially if you notice that they are reluctant to speak about school, which means anything you ask, how was your day, what was good about school today, completely reluctant to speak, then you know you have to do your investigation. You have to look further than this, right? Now, having said this, now let's say you already know that there are signs and I need to investigate. So what can you do next? Okay, we're going to learn about that, or we're going to explore that right after a super short break.
There are two words that triggers me yang memang attract. Okay, satu personalize, the other one is customize. Within few minutes, 10-20 minutes, they know the kids, and then they can explain. So that's something yang kita tak pernah jumpa in any other school. I've been to many other schools, physical and online. Okay, and this is something new for us. The idea of the founder itself know the issues with the current education system. Okay, and then the approach that you have you get to know the personality of the student first, and these issues that is not being done in the normal school.
Welcome back, and this is, I would say, is the next important part of the webinar. Well, we're going to talk about what can parents do to help. Now, the first thing that parents can do to help, right, is to create a super safe space at home. This is easier said than done, because I think a lot of parents don't spend a lot of time thinking. We are not aware whether the space is actually safe, because we come back home after work, we are stressed out as well. We are drained out from the day's demands. So there is no thought given on how to make the home actually a very nurturing, safe space. Okay, so if that is difficult, let's start with some simple steps. Now, how can you make it a comforting environment? You don't have to have the latest Scandinavian furniture or warm lighting, soft lighting, none of those things. I think it starts with first you taking a break, right? You taking a break from work, actually down-regulate your nervous system, down-regulate your emotions, take a bath if that's necessary, to calm yourself down, and then make yourself available for your children, right? And you actually listen. Like, this is one of the things a lot of the students share with me, because we have this incident where parents comes to us and then they say that, oh, can you talk to my child about this and this? Like, they're not waking up in the morning on time, or they don't want to exercise. These are real things, yeah, that parents have told me. My child is not exercising. Can you advise him? Because he seems to listen to you than me. Now, the reason I think why children end up listening to me or any of the teachers here is because in order for people to listen to you, they first need to listen. They need to feel like they are listened to. They need to feel heard. A lot of parents don't do that. And I completely understand why, because you're so busy. You're tapped out after the whole day. You just want them to do the right thing immediately. So this is where having a good partnership with a good school comes handy, lah. So what you want to do, the first step is you want to actually listen without judgment. You just want to listen, like how a therapist would listen or how a best friend would listen. Just listen. Allow them to express their feelings. So if this trust is established, or if this feeling of comfort with you is established, then trust me, that bullying incident is not going to go past you, because they're definitely going to open up and share with you, right? Then the next thing, how you can make this even more effective, is you have a regular check-in, just like how you would have a check-in with all your subordinates, at work. Have a regular check-in with your child about their day-to-day experience and what is their experience like, what are they feeling, right? So you want to have this trusting, open communication going on. Now, of course, this is a skill set that doesn't come in naturally to most people. I think maybe to certain teachers, it comes in very naturally. People who are in leadership position, maybe it comes naturally. And I've noticed even people in leadership position, they can ask these questions at work. Dekat kerja dia okay je. But they don't bring that same skill set of asking these curiosity-based questions at home. Right? So curiosity is super important. And if you feel like you don't know to ask what questions you should ask or how you should ask them, I have this special book that I've read that is really, really handy, because you want to ask questions that doesn't make the person's guards go up. You tanya soalan tu je, you tak nak dia clamp up. You don't want the kid to not open up, right? So this book was very, very handy for me to learn this skill set early on in my career as a teacher. So if you would like the title of the book, please drop us a DM and then I will let you know what the book is, because I need to go find it and let you know. Dah lama dah tak baca buku tu. Okay, so that's what you want to do. You want to learn how to ask open-ended, friendly questions that allow them to open up to you and be a shoulder to lean on. Really listen, right? Really let them feel heard, right? The next one you want to do is you want to educate your child about bullying. Okay, what do I mean by educating your child? First of all, teach them, just like how you would say, like, oh, don't talk to strangers, or don't, or make sure you look right and left before you cross the road. You also want to tell them what is bullying, what are the kind of bullying that is happening around us now, whether in other schools, in other states, other countries, how to recognize it, and make them understand fully that it is not the victim's fault for being bullied, right? And that being bullied is actually the bully's problem. It's not theirs that they got bullied. You must have this talk with them, just like how you want to have talks about safe sex or religion or whatever it is, right? These are one of those topics that you have to talk to them about. Now, after you talk to them, it's not that you talk to them and forget about it. I would say take it to the next level. What is the next level? That means you discuss different scenarios. Okay, abang, kalau dalam kelas kan, you duduk macam ni, lepas tu orang datang terus bump you. Or dia curi pensel you. Ataupun dia, bila you tengah lari nak kejar bas sekolah, dia tarik bag you. Discuss all these different scenarios, right? What if people call you names? What if people say, they start teasing you about your bodily features, either your eyes, your eyebrows, your body shape. Kalau dia cakap macam ni, you cakap apa? Practice all these scenarios. So I do this at home with my son as well, because I want him to be able to respond effectively and safely if something happens. So example lah, I noticed dengan my father, right? So my father cakap kat dia, oh, if somebody wants to beat you, what do you do? dia tak tahu. Oh, dia macam shock lah. Why would somebody gonna beat him, right? It's his fault. So then my dad said, you got to hit him back. Then of course you cannot interfere when your parents are talking. Then after my dad is talking, then I explained to him lah. I cakap, if you feel like somebody's gonna hit you, the first thing you do is you run, right? And then if you have a younger kid like mine, like 4 years old, you tell them how to run, because dia mungkin ingat, oh, run tu macam main-main, sikit-sikit. They don't know, So you got to play these different scenarios. So I said, you only try to defend yourself or harm the other person, like, if they are already harming you, and you have to do it for self-defense. And how do you do it? Like, if you have to beat, how strongly do you have to beat it? Is it like this? Is it like this? What is it to punch? You've got to practice. This is what we call true education. So you want them to be prepared when they face a bully. It's not a shock to them because you've run through the scenarios before. Okay, the next thing that you want to do is you want to encourage social skills. Why social skills are super important? You want them to play team sports or music that they do, music, art classes, anything else that they do to develop their confidence where they can make friends and feel valued. So for example, let's say this child is really good at sports, right? So they at least have the support network of the teammates. They at least know that they are valued. So if somebody tries to dismiss or diminish their value, they know that they are actually valuable. They mean something as a person. So that is where social skills come in. Then the next thing that you can do that's very related is you can build a support network. Okay. So when you're building a support network, you want to connect with other parents, your teachers, school counselors. So you want to make sure this communication with this group of people are very consistent. So what we do, like I was mentioning before at Pass Excel, we make sure this communication is super duper consistent and it is super duper close. Like what our approach towards dealing with parents is like partners. So if you notice a lot of our testimonials, this is what parents would have said, oh, I feel like I really have a partner now, like in my child's education, right? If things are getting out of hand, you already notice the impact is bad. Like you notice that the impact might need professional help. Please don't shy away from seeking professional help. It might be a counselor, might be a therapist, right? Because a lot of parents, I've noticed when they talk about therapy, they feel like it's a sign of weakness. Or they feel like, oh, my child's not crazy. My child, is not bipolar or schizophrenic. So kenapa dia kena pergi jumpa therapist, right? My child's not crazy. This is their mentality. But I think I want to reframe here that what is the purpose you go to therapy? So if your child is weak, let's say in math, would you consider your child crazy if you get them a math tutor? No, right? Similarly, if your child is weak in their emotional management, or they don't have the skill set to manage this trauma that happened to them, then what's the harm in getting a coach for that, right? So change your perception about getting professional help so they can actually help your children. Now, the next one you want to do, whenever you give something to your children, like let's say you're giving something like a phone, a tab, their own laptop, you want to make sure it is clear to them that this is a responsibility, this is a privilege that you're giving the child. So you want to empower them with responsibility. How do you do that? You want to have parental control over these devices. You want to have some sort of monitoring tools to monitor and control what's happening when they are browsing the internet. So if you have no idea, you've never used any parental tool or any monitoring tool before, just drop a comment and then we'll give you a list that we've prepared. This list is not exhaustive, of course. We initially put this list in because some parents start complaining that the kids use internet a bit too much. I don't know what to do and stuff like that. So we did it for our parents here. So of course, it's not exhaustive. You might do your own research if you want to, but if you want to get started, this list will be useful. So just drop us a comment on this webinar and then we'll get you the list to you. Okay, next one that you want to talk to them about using these devices is their digital footprint. What are they signing up for? What cookies are in their browser? What happens when people have so much data on them? How can people manipulate them online? So this is very, very important. Talk about that as well. And the third thing is you want to teach them internet safety, which means you want to teach them critical thinking, analytical thinking. You want to teach them how to differentiate between what is true, what is fake, what is, half truths, and what is a credible piece of information. Now, of course, we understand that this might be very difficult for parents to do because you're already swamped with so many tasks, right? Which is why at Pass Excel, we conduct this kind of community events. Like one of the latest one I think they've done is called Break the Fake, Identifying Fake News, which is the teachers actually train them. Okay, if this is being said, okay, they show real life examples. Okay, this is one news. Do you think it's real or is it fake? How do you analyze? How do you cross-check for references before believing that something is true or fake? Right? So this is very important in order to empower our children with the skill set necessary to face bullies, right? The next one is choosing the right school. So I cannot emphasize this enough. The environment where your children grows up in is super duper important. So before you choose the school, I think you want to ask them about what is their school policies about bullying. What will happen if my child is actually bullied by 3 other people? You know, if you dismiss, would you choose to dismiss the other 3 kids? What you want to ask these kind of hard questions. The reason why I'm saying this is a lot of brand name schools that have big brands, what they advertise themselves as is zero bullying policy. And you can read the reviews, you can even ask people who've been there. That seems to be not true when it comes to execution. And the reason for that is because it doesn't make sense when you are a profit-oriented business. Because if I were to dismiss 3 kids to safeguard 1, I've lost 3 incomes, right? And schools, I don't think so. Most of them operate with that big of a margin. Now, here at Pass Excel, it functions differently. Let me tell you a story, right? So we've had one kid, that time the mother came to the office, so she wanted to speak to us. And then we had trial class that time. So the boy decided to join the trial class there using his computer because the classes are all online. It's only that the admin office is physical, right? So he went into the class. Before that, the mom was explaining what is his problems and everything. We were listening, right? So the mom already said, his grades are not doing very well and he's getting into bad company and whatever not. And so happened the trial class that he was going into, it's a mixture of our students plus some other kids who are coming for trial class, right? So when he went in after he finished the class, I think it took about an hour, I was talking to the mom. When he came out, he was stomping out angry, right? Because before he went in itself, he asked me, is there going to be people of my race in there? Is the teacher going to be a person of my race? And then I said, why does it matter? He said, oh, because my English is not so great. Then I said, but I understand you fine, right? Like, I understand you fine. There's no problem in your English and the teacher can definitely understand your language, right? Like if you speak in English, the teacher's going to understand. And then after the class, he stomped out, super angry. And then he said, oh, I don't know, I didn't like the class. There was nobody, people of my kind in there. So I asked him, what do you mean not your kind of people? Then he refused to comment further, right? Because I think nobody wants to come across as racist. But so happened, the class he's supposed to join, we had a student who was previously bullied. And when we did his discovery session, we noticed that he has a high tendency to be bullied. And of course, all this behavior tied up, there's many other small signs that tied up to show that he can be a bully. He's quite a racist. So what we did was we didn't accept him for that semester. We told the mom, sorry, we just don't accept this kind of students into our school. And I remember very clearly, the mom got really, really pissed. The mom got so pissed because the mom said, oh, who actually rejects a paying customer? You really don't know how to do business and whatever not. So I'm like, yeah, that's true. That makes sense. I really don't think I know very well on how to do business, but I do know how to safeguard my students and my children, right? Because when a kid comes to us, they're like our children. A teacher, I always felt like a teacher is the second parent because they spend so much time with us. So it is our duty to safeguard our kids, right? So we didn't take the kid in. Of course, we made a lot less profit that year, but it doesn't matter, right? Because at the end of the day, the transformation we create, I think, feels us a lot more than what would have happened if we brought the boy in and it damaged the dynamics for the other students, right? So you want to really make sure you choose the right school. That's super duper important. The environment is really important. Now we get to the interesting part of today's webinar, which is in case your child is not being bullied, what can you do to stop it from happening in the first place? Okay, the first thing that you want to do, you want to build resilience. And how do you build resilience? So you make sure you can build strong kids. So what is the basis of building kids who have strong resilience or strong emotional safeguards, right? It starts with building super good relationship so with you, yourself and the kid, so they can stand up to bullies. Okay, because like I mentioned before, bullying is hard to spot until it's a bit too late. So if you have this strong relationship, yes, that can act as the biggest prevention that you want. The next thing is you want to teach your kids on how to know their worth and be really good at setting boundaries. So what does this mean? We teach our children on what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. How should they be treated and how they should not be treated, like I told you. Like, you want to teach them, okay, if somebody says this, is that good behavior? If somebody behaves a certain way, is this a good behavior? So you want to run all these examples so they can tell you what is the difference between a nice and a mean action. So, because a lot of the reasons why the kids cannot do that is because they are brought up in an environment where they need to make other people happy, right? I mean, this is generally all our upbringing, because we are taught to be, nice to people, to the borderline of being people pleasers. So if we don't teach our kids the difference between nice and mean, it's going to be very hard for them to spot a bully as well. Then the next thing you want to teach your kid, if they have not been bullied before, to avoid this forever, is to choose their friends wisely. Friends who will stick with them in case they're being bullied, who will protect them, and of course, friends who will not turn into bullies. You want to teach your kids how to spot these things and avoid the bad people, right? Okay, and then after that, there's two more things that you need to do in order to prevent bullying from happening. One is teaching them how to be brave to speak up, because a lot of the problems, like I said, it's left undiscovered because we don't encourage children to share their feelings, their choices, their thoughts, right? We want to make sure they can do this confidently so that we can avoid the whole bullying scenario. And lastly, we want to make sure that we have good control over their social media usage and their device usages, because cyberbullying is real and it is very subtle. Sometimes you don't know until it has progressed to a great deal. So you also want to teach them on how to use social media safely, how to use the phone safely. So these are some of the preventive measures that you can take in order to avoid your kid from being bullied. Now, we've covered a lot today, right? I hope you take back home with you the most important things that I've mentioned. Again, I would just like to reiterate that protecting your child from bullying is not a sign of weakness. We've seen why you might feel that it's a sign of weakness. We've gone through in detail, right? And then we've also seen why you should stop the blame game, why you should not blame your children in case they get bullied. We've discovered how we can spot the signs of bullying, and we've gone in detail about how parents can help to reduce or mitigate the impact, as well as prevent it from happening to their children if this hasn't happened yet. Now, I hope this session has been super useful for you, super valuable to you. If you have any questions, any at all, please drop them in the comment section. If you would like to share your story, please do so in the comment section. If you feel like you want to share, but it's a bit more personal, and then please feel free to DM us. One of the team members will reach out to you and put you in touch with me if it's necessary, or else they are more than capable of handling. So if you have any questions and if you have any topics that you want me to talk about in the future, please drop that in the comment section as well, and we will get it out as soon as possible. All right. Thank you so much. Have a great day ahead and see you in the next episode.